Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Violet.
I'm Ruby.
And today we're taking a look at a game called Almanac, The Dragon Road. Now, Almanac, The Dragon Road, this one is not necessarily a spoiler as to our thoughts on it because it was number 1 on Ruby's list for best of 2020. It was number 6 on yours. That's pretty high for both of them. So, but what about me? No one cares about my opinion on this show, but this is what we call a worker placement game, where you place a worker and get to do something. And we played lots of games like that, where you put something down and you get to do it.
Like the dinosaur game.
Yes, that's right. There's a lot of these games that are out there like that. This one, though, is different because you're playing through a book. And each time you play through the book, each page of the book that you play on, the rules change. Here is how it plays. So this game is taking place, the board for the game is this book here, Almanac, The Dragon Road. You're always going to start here on page 1, the outpost, but you may not, well, you will not see every page as time goes by. Each player is going to get 3 workers of their color. They're going to start with their own little caravan sheet that they're going to be using and storing goods on it. This is basically the number of goods that you can keep throughout the game, although you'll be able to purchase more of these that will allow you to extend that and have more goods. And so players are going to, each round of the game, you're going to be going to a new page, and sometimes there will be things that will happen. It gives you a bit of a story. And then players are going to take turns placing their workers on the page. And when you place them on a spot, you're going to get or do whatever it says there. Some of these are pretty simple. So for example, if I go here, I'm just going to take 2 of these goods here, the yellow goods, and put them in my wagon. Here, 2 yellows and a green. You can see this page is basically that. However, each page of the book has specific rules to it. So for example, in this one, each player can only put 1 of their workers in each of the different huts that are here on this board. So while placing workers, once I put 1, for example, here, I cannot go to any of these 3 spaces. I would have to pick somewhere else on the board. There's different spots besides just getting goods. When you go to these spots, you can extend your caravan. Here you will simply pay the money and the resources shown here, and then you'll extend it. This will sometimes give you an extra worker that you'll be able to use. You can up to 6 of them. A defense token, which can help you when you face off against encounters, and victory points at the end of the game. Although there's ones like this that just simply give you victory points. And again, of course, you also get to store more things in your caravan. Players also are going to have contract cards, and you'll be able, some spaces, you're going to start with 2 of these. You can get more as the game goes by, and if you ever have the resources for these, and you go to the right space, you can complete this by discarding all these. You'll get this many points at the end of the game, but you also get a special ability. At the start of the arrival phase, you gain 1 yellow for every 2 yellow in your crates. Each of your guard tokens gives you an extra point. At the start of the arrival phase, you simply get a yellow. The arrival phase is when you go to a new page. And then there's just other things you can buy or sell goods for money, because money is an important resource in the game, and it also counts for victory points. And you can go to the shop sometimes and trade different goods. But like I said, that's just page 1. At the end of an encounter, at the end of a page, after everyone's placed their workers and then pulls them off, players are going to bid money secretly from their hand to become the guide. When you bid money, whoever bids the highest amount of money will pay the second person's bid. So if I bid 20, but second place only bids 2, I just have to pay 2. And whoever is the guide is going to pick which page to go to from the bottom. So they can go to page 2, they can go to page 3. This kind of shows you what's going to be on those pages. Also, after that's been chosen, you'll turn over an encounter card. There's A, B, C, D, E. You can pick, they're going to be randomly chosen, so you're never sure what they're going to be. Sometimes it's something you have to fight, where those defense tokens will come into play. You get to roll dice, to fight against this, but it might not help. And the guide's always the first person to face it, which could be good and or bad. Or sometimes just starting with the guide, you can put the worker on one of these spots and get whatever it says there. the guide is then going to decide where to go. So maybe I say, I want to go to page 3. So we skip going here to the Cloud Monastery. And here in this spot, you can't put workers orthogonally adjacent to your own workers. And there's also letter tokens in the Cloud Monastery. But instead, we would go to Razorback Canyon. And the first worker on each of these bridges must be placed on one of the end spaces. And then you can go next to that as you cross the bridge. Or in the cavern mines here, you have to go, once you go in the mines, you can go to the same spot or lower. Here on the islands, you can go only to each island once. Here on the ruins, your first worker can go anywhere, but after that, all your other workers must attach to your first one. And then there's other rules for each page. There are different tokens that are needed, and the box actually has a spot to put the tokens for the different maps. And so you may need specific tokens for each of these. But as you can see, if I'm done with 6, I'm going to go to 9 or 11. And you're not going to see every map. You're only going to see 5 of these. Now, when you get to the final maps here, so let's jump all the way to the end. Dragon City Courtyard Markets is one of the final maps, or Dragon City Dockside Arcade. Here's where you're simply going to these spots, selling goods usually for money. You're just trying to get as much money as you can because that's going to be victory points, plus all the victory points from the extensions to your caravan and the contracts you completed. Contracts you don't complete will lose you that many points. You have to be careful on that too. And whoever has the most points is the winner. I'm pretty happy for the most part with the components. Money is different shapes and sizes. And they actually give you stickers to put in the different spots so you know what goes there. This is where the resources are going to be going in this section here, and the meeples go in here. And then they have the different spots for the maps here. You're definitely going to be, it's not that hard, but there's a lot of little components for the different maps, and it's just nice that they have them here separately. The only thing I don't like is I thought the dice were pretty poor quality. But the book works. It's a spiral-bound book, so you'll have to be careful as you turn the pages so that you don't, ruin the spiral-bound nature of it. But I think for the most part, it's good. I really like the art on the pages. I think each one is evocative of a different style of area that you're visiting. And the encounters are a lot of fun. I have mixed in here, a tiny little expansion, the Merchant's Manifest, which just adds mostly more of these things, which is an easy thing to add in. But they're a lot of fun, and they add a little bit of story to the game. So in this game, the basic part of it is, like I said, worker placement. You put something out, you get resources. You take those resources, you turn them in for points with contracts and things like that. This is something that is in a lot of games, but what makes this game different is playing through the book. What did you guys think about that, playing through the book?
Well, I like the book thing. I like how it's like one of those spinny swirly things where you put the page over, and that way you don't have to keep the book open.
So the spiral bound, you like the spiral bound nature of it. Yeah.
Also how the pages are mostly plastic and not paper, so it's not that rippable.
Sure. Okay, but
Also,
what about, yeah.
It's easier to put the workers on because it's plastic.
Good. But what about the actual game? I know you guys like how the book looks, but what do you think about the fact that the rules change in every page?
I think that was actually my favorite part of the game,
Even
how
though
there are
you're-
different rules for each map.
Even though you're really bad at listening to the rules.
Okay. Sure. But yeah, well, they don't change a lot. Like in this map, on one map, my favorite map is where when you put a worker, you put them in columns and rows, and then wherever they crossed, you also got that action.
Oh yeah.
One
I
of my
think that was. Never mind, you go.
one of my favorite rows was like the one where like if you put your meatball in one of the rows, you can only go on the ones below it. So we kept trying to tell you to go on the bottom row.
I actually went to the bottom row.
You know that I'm not that dumb, right? Okay. What about you?
I think my favorite was also the one where you had to cross in order to do the actions, but I also think that was the most annoying out of all of them because I didn't understand.
Well, that is probably the most complex, but there's some really interesting things to the game, and it's fun. Also, there's different tokens. Like page 2, for example, there's these scroll tokens you can get that will give you money if you go to a certain map. So you take one of these scrolls and you get money. So that's going to make you really want to go to that map. And in the one game we played, we each had a different scroll going to a different map.
Yeah, and when there was the chance where we could bet money in order to go to the map I wanted to go, it was also the map where it was the place where Daddy could go to the one where he wanted to go.
Right.
I bet all of my money because I wanted to go to my map.
Right, and so there was some push your luck. And that.
Wait, what if
Daddy
you lost all the money you were going to win?
And Daddy went, are you sure you don't want to go to 12? Why don't you go to 12?
Well, yeah, I was trying to encourage you to do the right thing.
No.
Oh. Well, anyhow, in this game, so there's like two games. There's the worker placement, and then there's the part of the game where you bid in between. It's not a big part, but it is important. It's a neat auction where you only pay the second most money. So sometimes you'll bid some money, even if you think you'll lose, just to make the person who wins pay money.
Yeah.
So there is that in the game, and then there's the things you fight stuff in between rounds, and so you try to get some stuff. And I like that. That's a bit of randomness in the game. And when I first played, I was like, but I've come around to liking that, and it adds a little bit of story. Other than that, it's pretty simple. You get contracts. You don't want to take too many contracts because you have to finish them. And you want to make your caravan bigger because you get points and things for that. And overall, I found it to be pretty straightforward and simple, and I think a lot of people are going to like it. Now, I don't think people are going to buy it based on this cover. It's not very exciting, I think. If I saw it in the store and it was like, Almanac, the Dragon Road, I'd be like, oh, okay. Why is there a gold Millennium Falcon on here? I don't get it.
When I first saw it, I thought it was like a chocolate coin game or something.
Oh, chocolate coins, yeah.
I think it's cool.
Oh, well, there you go. Ruby thinks it's cool. So what's your favorite thing about the game?
The maps, how they change the rules every time.
Right. And what's your rating out of 10?
9, actually.
Okay. And what about
I think
you?
you'd be a 10 since you're number 1.
Well, number 1 of last year. Okay, well, what about you?
My favorite part, I guess, Well, I also like the maps too. I also liked all the stuff you can do on them, and how you can like try convincing others to do what you want them to do.
Oh, okay. What do you give it out of 10?
A 7.
A 7. All right, and I'm kind of there a little bit with Violet. I'd give this actually an 8. I really like it. I think it's a good game. The worker placement is very interactive in a sense of sometimes worker placement games, you're not stepping on each other's toes. In this game, all the time, people went to where I wanted to go. You know, didn't you feel like that when we played? People were like, I wanted to go there, and someone else went there. Each page, there's only a couple spots for maybe caravans. I want to build my caravan bigger, and these two went there. You know, or getting a contract or turning a contract in. You know, there's only a few spots. But the best part is there's pages. There's 17 pages. You will only play 5 pages per game. You always play page 1, and you always play 16 or 17 at the end. But the other ones will be different. And to me, there's a lot of interesting choices. And it says on here, somewhere on here, I think it said like volume 1. So maybe that means more of these are on the way. We'll have to wait and see. As it is, if you like medium weight family style worker placement games, I recommend it. And not as much as Ruby, obviously, but it is a lot of fun. So until next time, I'm Tom Vasel.
And I'm Violet.
And Ruby.
And you've been watching Vasel Family Reviews on the Dice Tower. See you next time.